Welcome, everyone. I hope you see me, you hear me. I'm Annie from GenerationS Startup Corporate Accelerator. And before we start, let's notice some organizational points. So our working language today is English. You see below the screen the Zoom chat room. So you can ask the exchange there with the participants. Please introduce yourself, say hi, where are you from? Are you a startup, a corporate innovator, or an innovation ecosystem player? And for the questions, use a special window which is just here also below the screen. Because the questions for our speaker, we will be able to look at only on this special window. So if you see me and hear me, you can write it on the chat. Okay, so let me invite in this case our speaker today. Hi, Val. Please turn on your mic.
Hello, Annie. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Very nice to meet you. So let me make just a brief introduction and we can start our talk today. I'm representing GenerationS Startup Corporate Accelerator. It's an innovation development platform. It's maybe even not the one, but the only largest startup accelerator in Russia and Eastern European countries. We are creating tailor-made acceleration program for the corporate partners, and also we are trusted by more than 15,000 startups and 215 innovation ecosystem players. And today we're continuing the series of our innovation talks with the world's most innovative companies. So I'm happy to present you Val from BP Launchpad. And today we are going to talk with Val on very important questions. So we will start with the impact of the global pandemic on the industry. So we will ask Val to share with us key insights and tell us about BP Launchpad view on this matter. Then we will identify the key blockers of corporate innovation and talk about Launchpad's as BP innovation engine. Then we will talk about the focuses and about your current portfolio. And finally, it's also very important when we talk about your corporate culture and its impact on the way you work and interact, of course, with other BP's units. So let's start.
Thank you, Annie. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. And yeah, pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So can you just briefly introduce yourself, your experience for our participants, and then we can switch on the topics.
Awesome. All right. So hello, everyone, and a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Val Nefyodova, and I work at BP Launchpad. I'll tell you more about that as we go through. So some of you may not have heard about us, some of you may have heard about us. So that would be hopefully interesting to learn more about. I'm currently a growth analyst at the team. And really the focus is to grow and scale our portfolio companies or resident companies in the clean tech space. So we are scale up factory for BP to basically diversify the portfolio of BP companies. In terms of my background, I've been in oil and gas for over 8 years. So please be kind with your questions when we get to Q&As. I'm not an expert in everything, but I'll share my thoughts and opinions. I've been with BP all that time, and I've been lucky enough to be part of upstream organization, Castrol business, trading and shipping part of the business. So that was a great experience. Once I joined Launchpad, it was all about growth and diversifying and scale up and investing in the new future. So I'm looking forward to this podcast with you.
Great, great. So you already know that we received a lot of questions from the participants even before the talk. So we structured our discussion the way you can answer along with the discussion to the questions. So let's start. So you know that the demand for oil decreased drastically due to the global pandemic, and along with that, COVID-19 also changed some behavioral aspects. So could you point out the key challenges of the industry nowadays and the impact of COVID and how it changed your strategy maybe?
Sure. Yes, I think, let's start with the bigger picture. I think it's important to pay in the context before we go into this kind of slightly shorter term, I guess, impacts that we're observing. So I'm sure the crowd on the call is quite well read and well versed in kind of oil and gas and energy space. We know that one of the biggest challenges for our industry and for the planet in general is climate change. So, the planet is getting hotter, the temperatures are increasing, the trajectory of that temperature increase is not sustainable. And what we also know is driven by our human activity. So that's a factual statement. What we also know is that in 2020, there was a lot of, I guess, hype and momentum building around this challenge. So we've seen activists in various parts of the world, either protesting peacefully or exchanging their views on social media about the effects of climate change and the need to action and do something, call for action and need to do something around it. So I think there was a wave building up as well as we transitioned into 2020. What we've also seen a lot is, big corporate statements around climate change. So companies like Microsoft, like Amazon, going net zero, going decarbonized, and pledging, that they will be transitioning to the decarbonized future. With most recent, Apple's announcement as well, not just decarbonizing themselves, but also the supply chain. So we're seeing some big statements, big movements, and a lot of activity around that space. And then I guess recently, what we've also experienced, all of us, and even now when we're hosting this webcast online on Zoom, it's almost like a new norm for everyone. COVID-19 hit the planet in a way, and that had drastic impact across a lot of activity. But what it meant for oil and gas in particular is that we are seeing how drastically it was, the impact of that slowdown of activity is materialized. So we're seeing decrease in demand in coal, in oil. I think oil demand fell like 5% in Q1. And in fact, what we're also seeing is that renewables, wind and solar, are actually most resilient against such pandemic. So, and actually in first quarter, we've seen an increase of that energy being provided to the market from the renewable sources. So there's a lot of mixed messages in terms of the energy transition. But what I think is clear is that a pandemic such as COVID, which affects all of us in all aspects of our lives, well, first of all, slows down some aspects of traditional ways of doing business, but also shows how other aspects could be resilient. So putting my BP hat on, because BP Launchpad is clearly, we have the BP mothership next to us, although we are set up as a separate company. We see BP in a very unique situation currently where, it's very clear that the industry is at the turning point. You either, change the way you do things and you transform, or, the future may not be as bright and as we really want it to be if we continue on the same trajectory. So what we've seen over the last couple of months is BP really fighting for, with the with the challenges on the one hand, with Bernard Looney coming in and introducing the new net zero BP agenda, decarbonizing the company, net zero in the company and the planet, and helping people do it as well. Massive challenge, very ambitious challenge, given that we're an oil and gas traditional company, or we used to be, now we're changing. And on the other side, the shock of the COVID-19, the oil price shock, and the ups and downs of the oil price, the impacts have been massive. We've just announced today our results for the second quarter. We're seeing drop in earnings. We're seeing, not the same results as last year, obviously, followed by most recent announcements of the job cuts as well in BP. 10,000 people have been announced to leave the business because we need to change the way we do things, and we are writing off some assets as well, oil and gas assets, so 18 billion of assets. That's the impact we're talking about here. It's real, and it's physical. You can feel it as part of the company, but also what it kind of shows and signifies is that need to transform the business from traditional hydrocarbon business to more sustainable, more renewable, and modern energy business. And I think that's the key challenge that I see for BP, for Launchpad, and for oil and gas. If it's not even oil and gas, it's for the energy industry.
Yeah, sure. So, if you want to stay on the line with the situation, you need to transform very quickly, as I understand, especially regarding the challenges that we face. So you need
Absolutely.
to be very flexible and very able to transform.
Yeah, and it's not only just to stay on course, you need to transform. We need to act to change the trajectory. We can't just stay on course. I think that's another key message that COVID-19 has showed us. We've seen, cleaner air. We've seen actually a drop in emissions globally. We've seen, dolphins and whales coming back to some oceans and seas. So I think what we're realizing is that, there is a need to actually do some action against, to slow down the climate change. And I think that's a key learning from what we're experiencing now.
Okay, that's very interesting. Just I'm reminding to our participants, unfortunately, the option to raise your hands and ask the questions doesn't work in this Zoom session. So please ask the questions on the window below, and we will take them on the Q&A section. So Val, thank you so much for this overview and key figures. So it's clear that the big companies need to adapt to the current situation, and we don't talk only about oil and gas industry, but it's broader. So we talk about energy industry as a whole, and but we know also that it's very difficult. Actually, it's easy to say that we need to transform our business, our operation model, and so on, but it's very difficult to do this. So we currently stating that large companies spend a lot on their R&D, but they have challenges and obstacles to turn this R&D into businesses, to commercialize these R&Ds. And before we pass to the answer from your side, how we can do this, let's ask our participants. So what are you thinking? What are the key blockers on corporate innovations? We have a little poll. I'm launching it now. You can also pick up, Val, you can also pick up the option that you think is correct or it's more important than others. So please choose what are the key blockers, in your opinion, in enabling innovations within large corporations.
I've done my pick as well.
Great. Okay, waiting for some other answers. And we'll discuss the results also. So 10 seconds. Please pick up the options that you seem are correct or are more important. Okay, let's finish. Do you see the results? Yeah, so the top 3 is low acceptance to change and risk. Then we have corporate politics and bureaucracy. And then we have a failure to integrate innovation to core activities. So,
I'm
also,
loving
yeah,
the answers.
yeah. Yeah, so can you give some comments on the answers? What do you think about key blockers?
Yeah, well, what it shows to me is that we've got quite a knowledgeable crowd on the call today. So I'm actually starting to get worried about the Q&As coming my way at the end of this talk, because I think, most of you guys who chose those top 3 would, those would be my top 3 as well. And so I chose personally the corporate bureaucracy and governance, because to me that goes hand in hand with actually the lack of acceptance of risk. So they kind of joined up together. That was my answer, and I'm happy to see that you guys think the same way. I think what we've seen in the past is that, as you grow as a business and you become a multinational, multi-corporate, big organization, you sort of become a bit of a dinosaur, really. You move slow. Well, some dinosaurs move fast, but some of them move slow. And you take calculated risks, but to calculate that risk, you need to involve half of the company to do it and take a year to implement a change that actually might not be that impactful. So I can see that. And the risk appetite, obviously, especially in oil and gas, is just not there. And rightly so. We operate in an environment which requires safety. Safety comes first, and for VP, it's one of the top values as well. But we talk about risk here in a slightly different way. It's about potentially investment risk, but we're still very conservative there too. So I can see why the participants picked the option. What was the third one again?
The third one, I think, I don't remember, and I don't remember. We'll check it later. So let's start to talk about actual BP Launchpad model.
Sure.
So what was the history of the Launchpad? Why it was necessary to create such unit within BP?
Yeah, no, and I think this poll kind of sets very nicely, and the responses to the poll set very nicely the way into the story of Launchpad, because really Launchpad was set up as a separate independent entity from BP in response to this need for BP's energy transition route to be set up as a strategy, and recognizing that we need to diversify our portfolio and we can't operate in the same way we do. So just to kind of to paint the vision for Launchpad, it was built to create a portfolio of companies which will enable BP's transition to this new strategy and transition to the new company that would help reimagine the energy for the people and the planet. That's really what we're trying to achieve here. Historically, BP's innovation capabilities, they've been there. We've got R&D, we've got incremental innovation within our core business units. We always strive to do things better and more efficient, but we lacked really the skill to scale up rapidly, to build something disruptive, to completely change the course on the path that we're taking. And that's really why Launchpad was set up, because that capability was not present in the company. So Launchpad is set up to invest, build, and rapidly scale up a portfolio of world-class clean energy businesses that would pave the way to net zero for BP, for the planet, and for all of us, hopefully by 2050, because that's the target. And to do that, we combine two things. So we combine investment, so it's capital, and it's expert business building capability. And as a team, Launchpad brings that to BP, but ultimately set up separately and having our own governance, we're able to execute on what we promise. So that's the unique setup that that's never been done before in BP. Interestingly, BP is the first company that set up such unit in oil and gas industry and in energy and industry. We've all known about Google X and Amazon accelerators and other tech companies have been there before. I think in the oil and gas and the energy world, it's been a bit conservative, it was really a bold step for the industry to set up an investment arm and a scale up arm like that. So we are proud to lead the way.
Great, that's amazing. And can you explore a little bit more on how exactly does it work? Actually, what is the model of the Launchpad?
Yeah, so as I said, we are an investor first and foremost, and we've got business scaling mindset and capability that we bring to the startup, to the founder community, to the company that we want to grow. And really the aim is to either transform or disrupt the existing value chains in the energy space, or create new ones. So create new clean energy businesses. So we pursue those two options. We really we try, at the core of our offer is to provide you with acceleration power of 5 years in 2 years. So we really want to speed you up on your growth trajectory. And if we look at what we invest in, it's really digitally led opportunities. So we are about more software play than hardware play, to put it simply that way. We're not excluding hardware plays. We know it's important. But the focus would be more biased towards software, Internet of Things, digital, analytical space, naturally, for Launchpad. We would also want to invest in the companies that show an opportunity to scale and grow significantly and rapidly within 3 to 5 years. So we have a specific time horizon, which we apply when we evaluate the companies we want to invest in. And I think what's important for us, and at the heart of the investment, is the incredible team that we see in a startup. Talent and capability, passion to make the change, expertise and knowledge. I think those things, that they're just, if that's not there, I don't think we'll continue talking. And obviously the product. So it's technology, it's your moat, it's what keeps you afloat, it's what enables your growth as well. So we would want to see a product which is already gone through a proof of concept and is maybe already at the market and has some customers maybe signed up for. So we're very specific about the stage of the company that we're investing. So if talking VC language here, we would be looking at Series A going into Series B type of company. If we think about the earlier stage growth, the seed and pre-seed stage, when it's either an idea on the page or it's a prototype, this would not be a Launchpad play. But it could be a BP play, because in BP we do have an incubation program that actually works with those earlier stage ideas, which could potentially then become Launchpad residents once they scale through the incubation, but can go other ways as well. So I think by setting ourselves very focused and very specifically about which type of companies we invest in, we increase our chances of success, because we know how we can then accelerate you to become that unicorn business by 2025.
Okay, that's great. And actually, I know also that you are working at the same time with internal startups of BP and external, as well as external startups. So how many projects do you have currently in the Launchpad? With how many teams do you work now?
Sure. So Launchpad's been evolving. So we were set up in 2018. And at that point, we were a very small team. And we did both the Launchpad side of things, so the investment and scale up, and the incubation side of things, which is basically trying to grow internal BP ideas into big businesses. So we did them all together. Currently, as we're growing, we we see the need to almost have a differentiated offer for those two different types of companies, because it's important to stay focused, and those companies at those different stages, they have different needs. So incubation business was kind of carved out of Launchpad and joined kind of bigger BP business, still part of innovation engineering as Launchpad, but we are two kind of brother and sister organizations right now rather than one. And if we look at our current portfolio, Launchpad currently has 4 residents, or 4 portfolio companies, as we call them. And incubation, we've just gone through a business program with them. We've got 4 currently going through the next round, and we've got 1 company that is currently finishing off incubation program, and they're getting ready to pitch to become part of Launchpad. So it's potentially a 5th portfolio company coming down the line. And just to give you a bit of a flavor of what companies they are, because Launchpad originated from BP, the first kind of couple of residents were from BP, so to speak. So they were internal BP ideas grown into currently standalone businesses. So we've got Light as an example of one of those companies. So they provide data analytics and technology to do reservoir surveillance, and basically they're unlocking the power, they're illuminating the subsurface is how they put the strap line around themselves. We then acquired Photech, which was an external acquisition, which complements their offer because they provide hardware to do the same kind of illumination and complement the data side of things. And really the vision is to have, to have a technology platform for smart monitoring, security, optimization of infrastructure. So we're not talking oil and gas, we're talking smart cities, we're talking solutions for corporates. We're getting into that space now. We've got Onyx, which is it's an external acquisition, and it's all about optimizing wind turbines and predictive maintenance of wind turbines. So again, renewable energy focus for us. And finally, Stride, which is the resident I work with very closely, and I help grow and scale internationally currently. Stride's offer is to unlock seismic for everyone. So mining, geothermal, mineral resources, understanding what lies beneath the subsurface is what they provide, and they disrupt the way the industry is doing it now. So very exciting startup too. All four companies are very early stages, a year or so, and all growing rapidly, bringing in revenue now. We can see from our Launchpad dashboard of KPIs and revenue growth. So we're very excited. The final one I wanted to touch on is the one I mentioned that is going through incubation right now. So Vive is the name of the company. They are the carbon offsetting app on your mobile phone. So very simple offer directly to consumers, so B2C business. If you travel somewhere or you move around via tube or bus or you fly, you track your journey, you see what carbon footprint that journey puts on the planet, and you have an option to offset that by investing into projects that are global and are helping the planet move to cleaner and better energy. So they're currently, they've launched the product, it's in beta testing, and I'm looking forward to seeing them pitching to become a Launchpad resident in the future. Hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavor of where we're playing.
That's great, and we have actually a lot of questions regarding the type of startups you are working with, related to the technologies and so on. And one of the question is that you are mentioning that you are focusing more on digital tech solutions. Are you working with hard tech startups as well, or it's not the focus of the Launchpad?
So we wouldn't rule anything out. So if the focus is on digital, as I said, but if you look at our current portfolio, Photech is a hardware play. So out of 4, we've got 1 already that is a hardware play. We want to move ourselves looking forward into the digital place for sure. And I think that would be, if there is a choice to make or a priority, that would be that at the moment. So as I said, Launchpad is changing itself as well as we're going and growing and seeing where the demand is and what the need is for the industry. So for the kind of next 3 to 5 years, I would say the focus will be on digital and software plays. We'll see what the future brings next.
Okay, great. And also number of questions we have is that, so you already told that you invest in startups, and usually you become like the majority of like the major stakeholder of the startup. And the question is that how and when do you take the decision to invest or to buy the technology? What are the criteria, and what are the ways you are working with startups within the Launchpad and after? So what is the expected outcome for the Launchpad?
Yeah, sure. So as you rightly said, the model for Launchpad is the majority investment. So yeah, if we invest in a company, we become the majority stakeholder, and that enables us to actually take control and accelerate you on your growth. So it's with that in mind. It's not a partnership we're looking for. It's not a soft support. It's really it's an accelerated journey. 5 years of growth in 2 is quite ambitious, and that's what we're striving to bring. And we bring not just investment, i.e. capital, and money. We've got, it's a value proposition that the founders get from us. It's access to corporate assets and contacts from BP and from our ecosystem. It's fast routes to funding somewhere else. So we are always looking into, bringing potentially other external investors as well in the company. It's looking into inorganic growth as well as organic growth. So we can help scale in that side as well. Strategic guidance and know-how, go-to-market plans, growth plans, sales strategies, access to customers, all that is coming as a bundle with that investment. So that scaling support is really important.
Sure.
That's why the majority kind of makes sense for us as a model at the moment. And that's how we're operating right now. And in terms of how we make decisions to invest, that's an interesting one, because it's an art and a science at the same time. We've got, obviously, we are KPI driven. We've got a process in place that we think works as a funnel to get us to the deal. So once we start our origination process, and we've got an origination team that goes out either externally to a startup ecosystem, or through partners like yourselves guys, other accelerators, or internal from BP, we scale. We try and see what's on the horizon, what's on the landscape currently, where do we want to invest. So we have the screening process first. We come up with potential list, of companies that we're interested in, or we engage in a conversation with them. So we would have a meeting with them. We would go through their business model, their tech, their team. So the 3 key things that we're really looking for to see whether, does the team really impress us in terms of their passion and knowledge? Does the tech work, and is it proven? And do we see the hockey stick? And if we don't see the hockey stick of growth, we think about, if we bring, for example, this and that and some other thing from Launchpad, can we create a hockey stick? So is there a BP advantage or Launchpad advantage that accelerates that company? So that would be the criteria we would think about. Following that, if we get some conviction, we feel that, it does make sense to explore further, we will do some robust due diligence. So we would engage with the company. We would, evaluate their tech, evaluate their people plan, their growth plan. And at that point, we may bring, it's not just the deal team at that stage, we're bringing our functional expertise from Launchpad to help us on that journey, and to really see, the nuts and bolts. At that point, it's not about finding faults or it's about uncovering, the current state of play and seeing whether we can transform it into a big scale business, in a new clean tech business.
That's great. So yeah.
No, I was just finishing off with kind of geographical space, because I think that's may be quite interesting for the crowd on the call today. So currently all our residents are UK based, and we are based in the UK as Launchpad. We are hopefully planning by the end of this year or early next year to diversify into one more geography, and hopefully that's US for us on the line right now. And by 2022, we're hoping to have UK, US, Asia covered, Europe. So we are quite, not say agnostic, but we know that UK is the current home market. US is next. Asia is growing. We want to be there. Europe as well. It's about when the opportunity comes live, I guess, for us more than anything else. And seeing now currently that we're operating digitally anyway, it's almost like an enabler for us for Launchpad to go wild and invest in geographies that we may have not invested before.
Yeah, sure. And also, you said that you are planning to expand your portfolio. So do you have any particular numbers on the number of startups that you would like to invest and to bring in the Launchpad?
Sure. Yeah. So we are quite a small team ourselves. We're about 30 people right now. And I think that's kind of the core team will stay the same. So there is a limit with regards to kind of how many portfolio companies we can bring on board, because it's not just giving them the investment money, it's about bringing the capability in as well. So we know our limits. So currently we've got 4. We're planning to bring a couple of more at the end of this year for sure. And by end of 2021, we're predicting to have about 10 to 12 residents. And by 2025, we're moving to 15 and 20. That does not mean that this is the kind of the limited amount, because some of the residents or portfolio companies will exit. Some of them will go other ways. Some of them will potentially become a BP core business. So that's the kind of the active portfolio, so to speak. But we can see the routes in and out throughout the journey to 2025.
Okay, that's interesting. And I'm actually integrating the questions that we have from our participants in our discussion, because they are very good. They are fitting very good. So we have a question actually, and it's quite interesting to know your opinion, because you said that you are a major investor in startups. And do you see any risk actually for a startup becoming less attractive for investors at future rounds due to the majority shareholding by the Launchpad, by BP?
Good question. And I don't think there is a straightforward answer to that question, because it would be, if I think about it logically, almost like a case-by-case scenario, really. Just to give a bit of a flavor where I'm coming from, say, it's a conscious decision from Launchpad to invest to buy a majority stake and become a majority shareholder of the company. As I said before, it gives us that ability to really scale up the business and accelerate that. We know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and we've had this experience before. So when we talk to startups, when we reach out proactively to companies we're interested in, and we describe the way we work, some founders are not up for giving up the majority. And that's fine. If you're the business, if you have a vision of your business that you can put through to life, and you can scale up without the majority stake from BP, that's fine. We're happy to maybe give you advice, and just you can become part of our ecosystem. Yeah. But for the companies that we target, where the connection and the kind of the accelerating power, the unique advantage of having BP as part of that kind of ecosystem is the beauty of the model. So giving you access to the customers, to clients, to markets, to technology, to capability is that unique advantage. So the founders that accept the majority model of Launchpad, it's not that they're losing some of the control, obviously, but they're still on the board, and they can then leverage everything that the offer is giving them. So for their business, for example, it makes sense for their business model. It makes sense to become part of something bigger. And that's why the value is materialized. And then you're looking at the exits and further steps for the company. Again, it really depends what you're pursuing. From Launchpad, you can exit the business, you can go IPO, you can spring back to BP and become part of the new core business. So to speak. So the avenues are quite numerous, and then for each it will be a different answer whether BP is a majority shareholder or not. So it then depends on scenarios and where you want to take yourself next as a founder.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And you already mentioned that like BP has a lot of units and tools working with innovations. Like you have an
Yeah.
incubator, you have BP Launchpad, you have BP Ventures. Can you like clarify how you are interacting with each other, because it's like quite a lot, and how do you align all the activities together?
Yeah, sure, Annie. And I'm sure half of the BP doesn't know how we talk to each other and how we align at the moment. So I'll try and make it simple, and I'll try to explain how we work kind of in practice. So all three brother and sister organizations, Incubation, Launchpad, and BP Ventures, we sit under one umbrella in BP, which is called Innovation and Engineering. So the new business unit that BP has formed after the transition. So we're kind of part of the bigger team of family, so to speak. But we, all three of us, we have very distinct offer proposition and value proposition. So being part of the same, basically reporting into the same boss, so to speak, David Iton, we keep alignment and we keep communication and we keep connection at the leadership team level. So that's really important. But at the same time, the values and the activity sets that we are doing are distinct. So incubation is early stage, as I described, kind of almost like an incubator for ideas on the page to minimum viable product type of kind of journey, coming from internal BP or external, they're quite agnostic. So it's the really early stage. We're talking lean canvas, brainstorming where to go to the market. So that's the incubation. BP Ventures, as quite a few may know, is the organization that invests. They buy minority stake in the companies, and that's with the view to kind of form strategic partnerships, get access to technology or capability, or leverage some synergies between BP and that company. So it's a minority investment rather than majority stake, and they've been successful for almost 15 years. Launchpad is the majority stake, and that's the key differentiator, plus the scale-up capability that we bring. So three distinct offers, talking across definitely at leadership team level, but also we can share deal flow, for example. We know each other. We're a big team, but there are some connection points which we know will all benefit from, such as origination funnels and deal discussions. And examples of that are taking place at the moment. So as Launchpad is new and the whole kind of innovation engineering organization is new, I think there will be still some bumps and kind of we'll try to find the way to make the communication and idea sharing smoother, and the team are working through it right now. But we can see some synergies, obviously, but also we're quite distinct three organizations as well.
Okay, so that's very good, because every startup with a relevant technology can find its own stakeholder within BP. Yeah,
it's its own home within BP.
Great. And we have also one question regarding the social impact mission. So do you consider any social impact technologies also within the Launchpad portfolio, or it's not your focus for now?
Well, from how I see it, to be honest, Annie, green tech at the moment in kind of clean energy space, they have social impact inevitably coming alongside, because if I look at what we're trying to achieve, moving the world to get to cleaner energy, more reliable energy, more affordable energy for the world, that's social impact for me, even in energy space. So I think it wouldn't be why we would invest, right, as a sole reason. But from what I've seen so far, it's never been missing at the moment. So what we're trying to achieve through our residents, through our portfolio companies, is a world impact, it's planet impact, it's people impact. So that social impact that the question is referring to, I think, is embedded in that. Unless I'm misunderstanding the question and there is some other social impact that I'm not touching across, so just let me know.
Okay, I think that it's the answer, actually. So if not, please ask again your question, so we can answer it. Yeah. And the last point I would like you to share is actually your corporate culture in BP. because in the Launchpad, because actually we have a lot of corporate innovators who are watching us now. So what are the key statements about corporate culture in the Launchpad?
Yeah, so I wouldn't call ourselves a corporate to start with. So I think BP has a
Okay.
corporate culture.
Yeah.
And we've got our values, we've got the behaviors, we've got ways of working, codes of conduct, we've got all that, and it's well up and running. And values, and the 5 values that BP is advocating, very relevant, resonate with the business, and I don't think they should be changing. That they're the right ones for the company. As Launchpad, as a separate company, we set up ourselves very differently in the way we operate, in the way we work, and our culture to do things differently from BP. So we've from early days we tried something in place that would connect us with BP from the investor, because they're our main investor, so to speak, but also the way that helps us disrupt the current value chains, create new businesses, get the best from the VC world, from the private equity world, and combine it all together. And also that helps us then to instill that culture in our portfolio companies to help them grow and accelerate. So we are more of a startup culture, I would say, than a corporate culture, if you know what I mean. We've got a bit of story around here about how we set up our culture. We've been thinking about it a lot and playing with it, and then we thought, oh, we'll set ourselves a so we called rocket booster challenge, because we're Launchpad, we're launching rockets. We'll do a rocket booster for our culture. So we stayed late after work. We've got some pizzas in, and pretty much spent 3 hours just brainstorming on words and ideas that really resonated with us as a team. And yeah, yes, we were tired. Yes, it was after work hours, but we had fun as well. We just opened up and we've been ourselves. We brought the whole self to work and thought about what does it really mean for us to work in Launchpad. And we came up with 4 words. So we came up with the kind of the ways of working. So we hustle, we pioneer, we energize, and we love. That was very important for us at the end. And we were quite pleased with that. That evolved obviously with some, into some more behavioral aspects later on. But what we realized next morning when we woke up is that, we in separate homes, that we, the first letters of the word spell help without us even wanting to do so. So hustle, pioneer, energy, and love. And that's kind of what we do. We really, what we're on the mission on is to help startups become new clean energy businesses in the energy space, and that was almost like as a nice validation that we're on the right track.
Great. And probably the last question before we pass to the sum up. Actually, we have a lot of questions, and I am proposing to take them afterwards and to connect participants with the answers, because we are running out of time. So the question is that, what do you think about co-innovation with another large corporation? Do you share the risks? Join forces, find relevant startups? Do you have such experience actually of co-innovation?
Co-innovation with other big corporates. Yeah, very good question. And I think that's where potentially we could be moving towards, because as I said before, Launchpad is set up as the first sort of not VC, not private equity, but a business building factory in the oil and gas and energy space. We know that if other big corporates in that space want to innovate and accelerate and change the way they do things, they will need to do something similar. So there is a way of partnerships, of course, which will, is enabling that. Currently at Launchpad, we're not doing that actively. We're having our own origination kind of arm that goes after the startup ecosystem. What we're doing, we're partnering with like-minded organizations such as OGCI, such as yourselves guys, other accelerators around the globe, who kind of aligned with us on our mission and who are aligned with what we want to achieve. And through those connections, absolutely, yeah, it is about finding ways we can connect the dots, we can help each other, and we can really move the dial together. So it wouldn't be for us so much with partnering with the same corporate energy businesses at this stage, but what we actively do is the ecosystem build up is the way forward for us.
Great. So let's pass to the summary of the discussion, and I'm launching actually an infographic that we prepared for our participants. So just a brief summary from you, maybe on the infographic.
Sure, and I think it's quite self-explanatory there. Say, really, this slide is the purpose of this slide was just help distill the key bits of our discussion today, and really help you guys and your ecosystems understand what Launchpad is about. I think that's important, and it's quite honest and open and inviting to connect as well. So number one is that we're about enabling BP's strategy to reimagine energy for the people and the planet. So we are focusing and investing in startups and companies that change the way we currently do business in the energy space. And it's about disrupting existing value chains or creating new ones. The number that I've covered 1 and 2. The third one is kind of what we've covered during the talk, is kind of what we invest in, so that if you take something away from this talk, you can at least have a bit of a checklist of where we're focusing. So we are focusing on digital. We need to see that potential to scale. It is about the team, and we would want to see passion, knowledge, credibility, and desire to move the dial forward in the clean tech space. And the product is very important. That's the growth enabler, number one. Then I'm listing kind of what, if you sign up for our offer, this is kind of what you get. It's not just the funding, it's the whole BP unique advantage that comes alongside with it, and that's what makes us unique and distinct. We're not just the VC, we're not just bringing the funding, we bring the scaling support, strategic know-how, connections, growth plans, and potentially other inorganic opportunities as well. So that's the power of both, so to speak, as summed up on the bottom line. And there's our contact. So LinkedIn obviously is the easiest route, and you can reach out to myself or any other team members or visit our webpage there. Or we have a website as well, which is currently being built. So don't take it as a finished product right now. We're improving it, but some of the contact information is there too, and our portfolio companies as well. So yeah, really look forward to hearing more from you guys. And if there are any further questions, which Annie, you said there's loads, we can always address them offline.
Yeah, because we have some questions remaining unanswered, and we will address them to you after the session in this case. So thank you so much for joining us today and for covering such important topic. Thank you to our participants who are listening to us, and let's stay in touch and see you during our next talks as well.
Awesome. It's been a great pleasure, Annie. Thank you very much for hosting me.
Thank you. Bye.